The big question about this bike is it really worth £3,500? Now, this is the EBI Agile, and as the most expensive bike I've ever had on this channel, surely it's the best. Let's find out. Hello, welcome to the e-VRC, where I am now reviewing the most expensive bike we've ever had on the channel, the EBI Agile Sport. Aluminium. Because it says AL on it. It's not personalised to me, it's AL for aluminium. It should be AU really, but oh well. First things first, I should open with, it's not £4,000 anymore. It has gone down, and it's more like, with a bit of a discount codey, jiggery pokery, it's more like £3,500. So it's already lost an eighth of its price. But anyway, because it is so expensive, we should probably take a closer look in a bit more detail than we usually do. So let's do that. 22 kilograms, 1, 2, 3. That is very swingy, isn't it? So yeah, pretty lightweight, but not that lightweight. It's not actually mega lightweight. Some people would be fine taking it upstairs, but some people would not. Height, oh no. Well, unfortunately I forgot my Allen keys, but height-wise, it does go down a bit further than that, like that further. So let's just kind of try and simulate it. It'll be about there. So it's probably okay for someone who's about 5'5", maybe pushing 5'4", and then up, it does go a bit taller than this. So, I mean, to get on, I've got it so my feet, my tiptoes are just on the ground. It does go a bit more, about to there. So it's probably okay for someone who's about 6'3" to 6'4". So let's get a closer look at this now £3,500 e-bike. Of course, we've got these EDX OX electronic gears that wirelessly communicate from here to the derailleur down there. Now sometimes you'll turn the bike on and it doesn't seem to be working. That is because to turn it on down here, you've got to push that forward and then it wakes up. You can charge it up using a charge port on there, and then you've got 12 speed. And that is one of the things I really like about this bike, because it's got 12 speed all on the one spindle. You've really got 12 different grades of cadence when you're pedaling. So you've always got the perfect level of how hard you have to pedal when you're going up a hill or on the flat. Unlike usually when it's like, say, for example, 7 speed there and then 3 here. So it's more of a 3 times 7. So there's a bit of overlap there. This is a much better system, I find. The brakes are Tektro hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm discs. Let's check out the brake test. 18 miles an hour this bus stop, 19 in the wet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, I didn't really expect that to be that amazing. It is wet, it's got thin tyres, but they are hydraulic brakes with big discs, so they grip down well. It's just that, well, everything's working against it today. But they're as good as they can be. Now the brake test was probably let down a bit by the thin tyres. They're not meant for grip on braking, but they are meant for low rolling resistance and good speed. They're not going to hold you back, which is why the cruising speed of this bike is a decent speed and why it is very easy to pedal when you're not got any power. But yeah, these are 27.5 inches or 700C, 700mm, and they're about 2 inches wide. Of course, as you can see, there's no suspension on the bike apart from that suspension seat post. So let's see how it fares over the worst road in Wolverhampton and in the R test. So how are these thin tyres and this lack of suspension gonna cope with the worst road in Wolverhampton? Big, long, horrible bit now coming up. And to be fair, the suspension saddle is coping admirably, but my arms are missing that front suspension. Well, let's do an R test as well, see how it fares there, which I think it might be all right, just that saddle. As far as suspension saddles go, it ain't bad. That's actually pretty good, mainly I think because of the suspension saddle. That's actually really cool. It still feels a bit rough through the hands, and it is still rattling itself to pieces. So yeah, this suspension seat post is actually pretty decent, and it did help quite a lot on the hour test. When you're going over that gravel, you couldn't feel it as much going through you as other bikes have been in the past where they don't have suspension. So it's a very good suspension seat post, one of the best I've tried, if I'm honest. However, the mud guards, which are nice, they're metal, high quality, going with this rear rack that can take 10 kilograms, although it's more of a hanging rack because obviously this mudguard pokes through it, and then the front rack here, which can take 5 kilograms. But anyway, these mudguards, although they're very nice and they are tightening in, they rattle quite a lot. So when you go over stuff like that, well, there's not much you can do just by tightening bolts to fix that. But then again, this bike is not really meant for this surface. It is meant for roads. The pedals are well go. They're very nice and they've got rubber grips on them. The saddle is a Selle Royale saddle, very high quality, and not only is it squidgy, it's very wide and it is very comfortable. For such a thin saddle, it is very nice. The hand grips are just rubber hand grips with palm rests, not massive palm rests, but they are there. And there's something underneath that feels very nice as well. It's got kind of like little lines on it. Like it. Now the colour computer, now since the first impressions, I've actually turned the brightness up in the settings, so it is a lot more visible now in the sun. Although it's not proper sunny, it is a bit bright. The battery down here, put the key in the back like that, and it pops outwards and up. And the battery itself is 2.5 kilograms in weight, 36 volts, 10 amp hours, 360 watt-hour capacity. It is not the biggest battery. In fact, it's a small battery. 360 watt-hours is not a high capacity, but they are trying to keep the weight down. It would have been nice if it's more, but they say a range of about 100 kilometers. We will pop in a bit to see. Now down here, you will notice there is no motor. Neither is there at the front. That is because it is down here. It is a mid-drive motor, and what that means is it uses the gears. So if you're in a a high gear, small cog, the motor does have lower torque. So when it's in that small cog, it doesn't feel as instant because it's got less torque. So if you want to feel it instant when you pull away, you'd have to be in a lower gear. So let's lower it down. Right, in boost, push down, power comes in, and that does feel a lot better. And then obviously you're gonna have to use the gears and go up the gear. It is nice, that mid-drive motor, and it does benefit from you using the gears and not just sticking in one gear, because that mid-drive is more of an extension of your legs as opposed to a hub drive, which is just giving extra power to the back wheel. So it gives extra power to your legs, and your legs benefit from the gears, as does a mid-drive motor because it comes from the middle. Right, hill climb time. 3, 2, 1, go. Right. So with the torque sensor, it kind of kicks in straight away. I've got it on boost mode, which is kind of like the laziest mode, but because it is a torque sensor, you still have to put a little bit of effort in for it to do something. So it's kind of hard. Yeah, I mean, we can't really get a time for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pedal normally and we'll see how we do. And to be honest, actually, and obviously we've got gears. We've got 12 gears, haven't we? So I can use those. It does feel like it's struggling a bit because of course it is only a 250 watt motor, and it's not like secretly way more powerful and they're just pretending. It's a proper 250 watt motor. But it is getting up, 8 miles an hour now, go up to 10. It's not bad. And you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Considering all the bikes I've had up this hill, for 3.5 grand, you'd hope I could get up. And I've got up a lot better than the supposed 750 watt e-bike I had last week that only had 1 gear. Oh, here we go, it's kicked in now. Did you hear that? That's terrible. So there we go, we're up. And listen to my breathing. It's pretty normal. You got a charge port down here. Now before we get some general riding impressions, let's see how this £3.5 bike came and how easy it went together. It's a very big box. In the box we've got pedals, we've got stuff for the electronic derailleur system, we've got the computer, we've got a little cool toolbox with a ratchet thing, we've got reflectors, an axle, we've got a bell, a clamp for the seat post and a dust cover for the seat post, manual, 2 amp charger. Let's get that pedal on in the right place and then it's... No! And then bring the cover down. If you want to see a more in-depth version of that, check out the first impressions video of this bike, which was a few videos ago. There'll be a link in the description. By the way, if you're enjoying the e-bike content and you want to see much more, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification sent straight to you when we release a new video. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget that thumbs up button. Think about this bike, it does cruise very well. So now I'm going like 19, and obviously that is under no power. As I get speeding up, I can go up the gears. So I'm going 20, let's get my toes on the pedals, 23, go up a gear again, 25. But you can get some decent speed on it just off your own power. It is a very smooth bike. Now these pedal assist modes, let's talk about these. Eco, it doesn't accelerate as fast from a standstill. It wants you to put a bit of effort in, well, more effort in. And then you've got Tour, and again it wants you to put more effort in, well, a bit less than Eco though. And then it's got Boost, which allows you to be quite lazy, so without much effort at all, I easily get over the legal limit, the assist limit of about 15.5. And most of the time, you are riding this under your own power. They are nice, these electronic gears, I've got to say. When I first tried it, they seemed a bit clunky, but when you're riding normally and not going really slow, they do transition from one gear to the next really quite smoothly, and it's only a bit clunky when you're going slow. Yeah, it is nice. However, it is one extra thing you've got to remember to charge. Not only is it one extra thing you've got to charge, in the thumb bit, you've actually got to put like a watch battery in, which obviously isn't chargeable. It's something that can actually run out. So you don't want to have to change that all the time. Obviously you won't have to do it all the time. It will last a long time. But when it finally does go, there might be a day or two, if you can't get hold of a new battery, where you're stuck in a gear. And that would be very annoying. And on much cheaper bikes, you've got your good old Shimano Altus, which work really, really well. And they're like second up in the range. They're like budget gears, but they work really, really well. Yes, there's a cable, but they still change really well, just like these do. And you're never going to have to charge them up. But these are cool, aren't they? And some people who are into their bikes, they just want to have cool stuff. I think sometimes people misunderstand what being expensive results in. People will say, how can it be £3.5 with a 10 amp hour battery? Now, more expensive bike doesn't have to mean bigger battery. Just in the same way, cars that are more expensive don't necessarily have a bigger fuel tank or even a bigger battery if it's an electric car. Same with speed. This is meant to be an absolutely, totally legal e-bike. So it goes 15.5 miles an hour, assist anyway. So because it's expensive, it's not going to suddenly be more than that, because it's meant to be 15.5. You don't necessarily pay more money for more speed. There's a lot of cheap, very fast e-bikes. And if you want a very fast e-bike, go buy one. This bike isn't for people who just want to go super fast. It does feel like an expensive bike, but then so do bikes half the price. For example, my favorite legal e-bike is the Ado Air Ultra, which people moan that it's expensive because it is about 1,800, but at 1,800, it's pretty much half the price of this. Is this bike twice as good as my favourite legal e-bike. Now, I absolutely love that bike. This bike doesn't fold, but it does have gears that you can choose yourself. And gears that you can choose yourself will always be more versatile than the automatic 3-speed on the Ado Air Ultra. But granted, it's a different style. This bike is a bit heavier, I think. Yeah, it's a bit heavier, and it doesn't fold. So you couldn't take this on public transport, whereas you could take that other bike on. So this bike is really for someone who's going to go all the way on the bike. You might get it on a train if you're lucky, but some places won't let you take it on. So if you're always going to go on the train, I probably wouldn't get this. Get this if you are just going to ride the whole way. But it does take off very, very nicely. But then it cuts out really quick as well. And then it makes me wish the speed limit was a bit higher, because it's annoying, because right now it could be helping me and could be going nice 20 miles an hour, but as it is, I'm cruising about 17, which is the kind of minimal effort cruising speed of this bike. Oh dear. Let's test out the 0 to 15.5 acceleration. Obviously, being a torque sensor, I've got to put a little bit of effort in, but I'm going to use the gears and try not to. So, 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Okay, so before we talk about some negatives about this very expensive bike, let's just check in and talk about the range. So we've done about just over, well, 15.5 miles, mainly in pedal assist boost. Oh, by the way, I think I forgot to talk about auto. It's got auto setting. So boost is the lazy setting, where you can be really lazy and it'll still get you up to 15.5, which I like, because a lot of torque sensors, you've got to put the effort in. But auto is more torque sensory. So if you don't put the effort in, it won't put the effort in. And then when you start putting the effort in, it will give you maximum power, as long as it feels that you are helping out. Anyway, so back to the range. We've done 15.5 miles and the battery is 59%. It does seem to be working just as well as it was when it was 100%. The battery hasn't sagged. We haven't had any voltage sag where it's gone down and it's come back up again. It's just gradually gone down bit by bit. So I'd basically probably get about 30 miles on this, which is good actually for a 10 amp hour bike, mainly in boost. But there is a reason for that, and that is because this bike cruises above 15.5. In fact, I think they've eked another like a 1 mile an hour extra out of it. I think it powers you up to 16.5, cheeky, but which is, I think it's allowed actually. But yeah, because most of the time you're actually going at about 17 to 18 miles an hour, just cruising around, you're actually on your own power. You're not using the battery at all, which is part of the reason why it's lasted so long, because 30 miles is really good for a 10 amp hour battery, but that's the reason. So the question is, could you do 100 kilometers? You probably could if you knock it down to eco. So when it is helping you, it's only giving you a little bit of power, but you're cruising over 15.5, so you're putting all the effort in. Yeah, of course you could, because obviously if you did all your pedaling over 15.5, then the range is what you can do. But if you were keeping it at 15, so it was always giving you power, you wouldn't get 100 kilometers. It is kind of a mixed number. So yeah, small battery, expect it to be less. But remember, this is an expensive bike. It doesn't mean you're going to get massive capacity. What it means is expensive bikes should have good quality cells. So before we do talk about negatives, let's just take a look at this bike. Obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I personally think it is quite a good looking bike. It's a bit odd, some parts of it, the way that it's kind of straight, goes down. I like that bit, but then this bit here kind of sticks up and sticks out where the battery is there. It does have that front rack. A front rack is never going to be pretty. It's just there to be functional. Obviously, if you want, you can remove that. And then you've got these things, they're like accessories. You can get these in different colours. You can get the bike in different colours, and you can get this in like a luminous green and things like that. Personally, I'm not really a fan. I don't really know why it's there. And then it makes that logo split up, which the EBI logo, which I still think looks like LGA, but upside down. It's a bit of a weird font. So all in all, it looks how it looks. Whether you like it or not, that's down to you, obviously, not me. The big question about this bike is it really worth £3,500? Now, just remember, how much a bike is worth isn't based on how fast it goes. And it's not based on how far it goes. We've already covered that in the video. But it is based on how much it costs to put together. And this being a Swiss bike, although it probably uses parts sourced from China, I don't think it's assembled in China, so the people assembling it are probably getting paid more, which means it costs more to put together. Now, does that mean it's better? It doesn't, does it? Because people are people. Some people somewhere else made it, some people somewhere else made it, some people get paid more. It doesn't make them better, does it? So you're paying for that. What else are you paying for? You're paying for customer service. Is their customer service better? Again, we don't really know. Is this material better material that I've been having on my Enquiries and my Ados and all that? Well, doesn't sound it. That sounds hollow. It's hurting my hands though. I'm not saying it's going to break or anything, but who knows if this is better and stronger than the ones we usually get on the channel? We don't really know until we've tested it properly or smashed it with a hammer or something like that. I do know it uses some very nice parts. That's a nice saddle, but I've seen nice saddles before. Those are nice gears, which are often on very expensive bikes. Take, for example, the Canyon mountain bikes, very expensive bikes. Are they faster? No, because they're just real bikes, but they are obviously more efficient than other bikes. But they themselves are more expensive than some other bikes you might get from China because of the way they've been made or where they've been made. Some things you might have expected a bit better from though are, for example, this bell. It is just a bog standard normal bell. Because it's expensive, you might have thought maybe they'll put a nice little buzzer on it, but no, it's just a bell. As far as I can see, there is no USB charger on that. There are lights, there's a front light and a rear light, they're okay, but the rear light isn't a brake light. You might have expected a brake light for all that money, but there isn't one. And this is annoying. The stand, which are usually over here, they've put in the middle, which means when you reverse it, the pedal gets stuck on the stand and I can no longer reverse it anymore. So now I've got to go forward, put the stand back, and now I can move it backwards. Now that's obviously not going to affect you all the time, but I've found myself being affected by that stand quite a few times already. I've only had the bike a few weeks. Obviously it rattles a hell of a lot. Despite it having a cool suspension saddle and not being too bad on the eye test, you don't really want to be riding over anything a bit rough. When you buy a cheaper car, you get lots of rattles in the body. So when you buy an expensive car, it's better made and you don't get it. This rattles more than many other bikes I've tried. The brakes are nice, but again, I've seen Tektro hydraulic disc brakes on £1,000 bikes. The mid-drive motor is nice. It helps you get up hills, but then a lot of bikes help you get up hills and you get mid-drive motors on less expensive bikes. The main event, obviously, for this bike are the gears. And like I said, the gears are very, very nice. I like 12. That is amazing. They're really good. And I've always got a gear I can be in. When I'm in the highest gear, gear 12, I can always help and push the bike on. And when I'm in the lowest gear, it really helps you get up those hills, especially with the mid-drive motor. I don't think you'll ever have an issue getting up a hill on this bike. It might not be the fastest because you've got to go in gear 1, but you will get up that hill. The main issue I have is if you're paying all that money for these electric gears, it is an extra thing you've got to worry about in terms of charging. You could get caught short and they could run out of battery and you need to recharge that or put a watch battery in that. Is it worth having that over a good standard Shimano Altus set? I'm not sure. Some of you will love it. I do love it. I just don't like the idea that eventually it's going to fail and I'll have a day where I've got no gears. Ultimately though, it is a nice bike and then it's just up to you whether you want to spend your money on it. I personally, if I had £3,500, I wouldn't buy this bike. If I had £3,500 knocking about and I wanted to buy an e-bike, would I buy this or would I buy the Ado Air Ultra, which was my favourite legal e-bike. Would I buy this over that? Is this my new favourite? No. My favourite legal e-bike is still the Ado. I really like that bike. This is lovely, but there's too many little things about it that are going to annoy me that I don't want to be annoyed about if I've just spent over £3,000 on an e-bike. So, sorry, EBI. Thank you for sending the bike. They did send the bike. They probably won't send another one, but I have valued the experience and I appreciate that they knew beforehand that I tell the truth about e-bikes, and they weren't just going to get some sort of paid advertisement. They were just going to get the truth, and you were too. So here you go. That was the EBI Agile Sport AL, and if this video helped you decide to buy the bike or to save you a lot of money, then do hit that thumbs up. But if you are mega rich and you still want this bike and you're thinking, I'm sure you don't know what he's on about with these, I'll just tighten that up, that's fine, I don't care about that stand and other things, and you like the look of it and you love those gears, then there's a link in the description. But if you are still here right at the end, let us know in the description and let us know if you would spend £3,500 on this bike, or if you prefer it over the Ado Air Ultra with the automatic gears, or if you had £3,500 and you had to buy an e-bike, what would you spend it on? And if you were going to buy something a lot cheaper than £3,500, let us know what you'd spend the rest of the money on. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, ride safe. Is that all I want to say? Is that all I want to say? Was there any other negatives I want to talk about? No. Then that's it. Okay.